No, three's way worse. The worst is like, newborn. No, it is the worst. It is.
It's just like, why did they do this?
It's visible, right?
It's just crazy.
Or we can make the lights dim also.
तेरा हर मतलब बंद होता है क्या तेरा अगर टच नहीं करे तो वो चेंज कर सेटिंग
नहीं होती
होती है
And I don't think, but it will record, right? Like, in other words, they'll be able to watch.
Shreya, ये कौन करेगा?
Yeah. It's already live now. It gets uploaded straight to
Home screen.
So can I, is this the link then that I can?
Oh no, I was
I have three. Am I just, was there any yelling in the camera right now? Hi everyone.
ठीक है पासवर्ड निकाल रही हूँ मैं एक सेकंड
Oh, should I message her? But I was like, oh, you have to come like all the way down.
Like he's so hard.
Okay. It's coffee drip on board now.
It's coffee?
It's definitely a lot to find sundown.
I don't.
I don't know, it might be a little bit over 10. I don't know.
Well, it's more good thing about having this.
I couldn't see it.
चलिए मुझे करना है, तुझे बोलना है। नहीं तुम कर तू बोल भी दे तो कर भी दे ठीक है ये मैं बीच में कर लेता हूँ पर हमें ये टेबल हटा दे ये नहीं फिर हमें पास करने की जरूरत नहीं है ठीक
बोलेंगे कि कुछ लाइक दिस
इधर ध्यान से मैं तो इधर ही खड़ा रहूँगा
I remember when this
You only got that one. Like it wasn't
was addressed.
Yeah.
I think you really did.
I am.
3 years ago, crazy.
I am. I was having a plethora of children
See if we
for a short
should-
period of time. He also has three.
I can't.
Within that.
Are you okay? Why would you do that?
No.
Yeah.
I just look at it.
Yeah.
I mean,
I feel like we've been very
fortunate that it's unpopular. It's like the way she is right now is kind of against the best interest of everyone else. Kind of like a few people who wanted to use fish, they're not in the minority capacity, and like even getting to it themselves would be very at this point. I don't know. My concern for it is more so. I'm very much like I'm a legal studies student. Like I like procedures to go with
Hi everyone, we're just going to get started with the presentations. First up, we have EcoFlex. So 5 to 10 minute presentation, maybe some questions if we have at the end. So you're free to get started whenever.
Sure.
so we are good to go right
Yeah.
Hi guys, I'm Freya
I'm Arjun
and we are team EcoFlex. So thank you. So as we all know today, we're gathered here for the Methane Hackathon, and as Isabel said, that methane is not necessarily lesser known, but lesser spoken about. Methane is a significant greenhouse gas, about 25 times much more effective at trapping heat than carbon dioxide, which is a major contributor to global warming and climate change.
So in today's time, the research shows that almost 60% of methane is emitted by human-made activities and are artificial. These include decomposition of landfills, usage of fossil fuels, and of course, agriculture.
The increase has accelerated in recent years, and the preliminary data by the International Energy Agency has shown that there was another significant annual increase in 2023.
So, after doing a lot of research, particularly about methane emission, we came to know that landfills were the major problem.
Landfills are a major source of methane emissions. The decomposition of organic waste in the absence of oxygen causes methane to rise up into the atmosphere, thus leading to global warming and climate change.
According to International Energy Agency, it shows that the landfills produce almost 20% of methane emission worldwide, which is extremely dangerous. So now, what's the solution? It's EcoHealth.
EcoHealth.
So EcoHealth is our personalized approach to an innovative solution to already existed Copenhagen. So it actually extracts methane and transport it for further production.
Now, to know a little bit more about EcoHealth, we've drawn inspiration from Copenhagen. What is Copenhagen? Copenhagen is a waste to energy plant in Copenhagen, Denmark, that uses advanced technology to convert waste into energy with recreational activities.
Without taking much care of the emission. The emission includes methane, carbon dioxide. They are just more focused on producing electricity and getting eradication of the garbage.
And a lot of recreational activities.
So, how our proposal just add on and modifies the current Copen model?
We have 5 key elements of EcoHealth.
Number one includes methane capture. So, we proposes to install methane capture units and installation throughout our facility, which can actually capture the methane which is emitted after burning the garbage and store them efficiently in large liquefiable cylinders.
Another key element of EcoHealth are methane sensors that detect possible leaks. These sensors will be placed throughout the facility that would detect any methane leaks in real time and have access to clear it out and filter it.
So one of the key highlight of our proposal is the methane biofiltration filters. So the methane captured and stored in the part one can now be used using the breakdown with the help of microorganism into biogas and fertilizer, which can be then sold to farmers at a much more cheaper rate.
It also helps bringing not only sustainability but also renewable resources to the surface. Next up is adding carbon capture. EcoHill will have a carbon capture system that captures the carbon dioxide emitted through the methane conversions. These systems will be placed in the exterior of the facility and in the interior of the facility to help with the methane emission.
So, along with all these technical aspects, our proposal also guarantees recreational and community impact. Talking about recreational activities, our exterior facility can also be used for skiing in winters, parks, and family picnics during the summertime. We also plan of proposing small markets and shops so that it can attract small vendors and small business owners. So this is the best we could do using the generative AI to minimize to mimic our proposal. So as you can see, this is the so like during winters, the exterior can be used for skiing and making a highlight spot. We can also put artificial grass and install like market and small shops.
As you can see, there are different levels for having like guided workshops for um, interactive sessions with the students, with the researchers, with people coming in so that they know a lot more about our eco hill, what goes on, how does it help the environment, how does it help the surrounding areas as well.
And there should be also a separate area for burning the garbage, which should be taken from the landfills and which can be transported in and out easily. And we can also see methane stored in large cylinders, which can be further processed for fertilizer and biogas production.
So you all know about EcoHealth now and the benefits of EcoHealth. There are some very positive advantages and significance of EcoHealth that we'll go into detail now. There's environmental, educational, and innovation and research. Coming to environmental, by focusing on methane emission reduction and capture, EcoHealth would generate significant contribution to decreasing greenhouse gas emissions and that would improve climate change and local air quality. Our EcoHill also focuses on zero carbon footprint and
And
zero
zero
methane
methane foot-
emission.
So we could be actually one of the first few startups which could actually take care of the methane emissions also along with the carbon footprint. Talking about the educational,
Talking about educational, like Arjun said, through guided tours, workshops, and interactive sessions with the researchers, with the community, with students, um, EcoHill would raise awareness about methane emissions and sustainability, so that it could reach to a lot more people, and people would be much more um, environmental conscious.
talking about innovation and research, we also proposes to host an annual conference at our facility, which includes of research scientists from universities, startups, investors, so that we can have a special day for methane emissions, talking about our climate change, and also this opportunity can also be used for sharing data that our facility is been storing about methane emission, and these data can be further analyzed and used for various technical research and advancement.
That's all about EcoHill and the solutions and the impact. Our EcoHill focuses on the solutions that include communication and engagement with the society and the community, and technological and quantitative aspects
At the same time,
at the facility at the same time. That's all about EcoHill. We're open to any questions you guys might have, and thank you so much for listening to us. Thank you.
Questions? Do a quick round of questions, please. Okay.
I have a quick question. You said it was based on Copenhagen.
Yes,
Yeah.
so we drew our inspiration from an already facility in Copenhagen, Denmark.
but we like, sorry.
How did you find out about Copenhagen?
So my dad visited Denmark, and he visited this facility, this place. He had a skiing resort there. So we were just talking, and when we were doing research, right, I just came to know and remind that idea of
And
Copenhagen.
Arjun came up with the idea, and then we did a lot more research on it.
Yeah. So we are actually modifying the current Copenhagen project, and we are including all the
By adding
five
more key elements.
or the key elements that these key
Follow-up
elements.
question to that is, what is, if you had to say one of the biggest differentiators between your project and Copenhagen, is one thing, what would it be?
So,
Sure.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So in Copenhagen, it's mainly just focusing on burning the garbage from the landfills and just directly converting it into electricity, and just doesn't taking care of which gas is emitted, which chemicals are released, nothing like that.
And it also focuses a lot more on recreational activities. Even on their website that we visited, they just go on and on and on about the recreational activities, the passes, what they have to offer. So they have very little about sustainability. It's a
Oh.
great idea, but their main focus is on the recreational
But
part.
for our proposal, we added methane capture, we added the biofiltration filters, so that the farmers can also be benefited at a cheaper rate. They can be provided with biogas and fertilizer. We also added the carbon filters, so that our building is zero carbon footprint as well as zero methane footprint. Also, we added a lot more recreational activities, especially for school students and university students.
While also keeping sustainability and the climate in mind.
So you be very careful, until you don't get burned, right?
Yeah,
And try to avoid burning as much plastic as possible.
yeah.
Yes.
So our main focus is that at the end of the production of electricity, the facility produces zero end product. That no product, no chemicals, no gas is released into the environment. All the bioproducts are used.
It's
So this is wonderful, really great. I like the community space aspect and the integration, and that's great how it
thank you.
how it addresses the communications and the technological thing. I'm wondering about if you thought how like who pays for it? Do you think it's a community government, sort of municipal government level thing, like municipal, provincial, federal, or is it a private enterprise? Imagine I'm Doug for it, and I want to know, okay, neat idea, but how do we get it done? Who do I want to do it?
Right. That's a great question. And So with the tours and the guided workshops, we're also open to like collaborations with universities, with research institutes, with startups. So we pitch our idea, we show them around, we show them our proposal, we show them how it benefits the community, the people, the environment, and make it like a great initiative.
It's a one-time investment, right? Because after that, tourists gonna come, or they gonna like make profit by selling fertilizer, biogas, electricity. So at the end, it's profit for everyone.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next randomly chosen team is Pat and Maddie.
Sorry. Okay. Okay. Small thing on the organic part being that you encapsulate not going beyond a certain point. And the point is like for scientists and big farms can be organic. Does that make sense to you?
Sorry, wait.
Organic. I couldn't write
Was
it
there
all
an
down.
add to it?
No, I didn't write it. I didn't write anything down. You can speak like on organic in any way that you were supposed to do.
For disclosure, what was the other point? I know it's like adding labels and stuff as well.
It's also so you would say that we add labels to tobacco or anything that isn't healthy for us, and then also so it makes sense for us to add labels to methane attached with like the environmental impact of the companies. Yeah. Okay.
Sure, I thought we were sticking on one.
Nice. To what? Yeah. So we're both speaking on disclosure. You're speaking on organic, and I'm speaking on nutritional value.
No, I'm just saying I thought we were disclosing more than one thing. No.
I don't know how to do this. Okay. Let me see if I.
You click on the symbol right next to the cross.
Oh.
No. Yeah. Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Full screen presents. Hopefully. Okay. This is gonna be a hot job. So we're starting. Everyone's talking about methane. We're specifically focusing on methane and a healthy, sustainable lifestyle. We'll start.
Awesome. So some of our main contributors that we found would have to be waste management, some of the fossil fuel emissions, as well as agriculture practices. And so here we have a graph showing some of our main contributors in Canada. So this was done in 2020, and it shows just a pie chart of some of our largest contributors of methane emissions. As you can see, it's almost completely even, other than oil and gas taking up majority. However, agriculture and waste are still very high in terms of methane emissions compared to oil and gas. And then other sources just kind of compares to, again, like consumption and things upon that.
Okay. So for our solutions, we kind of acknowledge that you can't really tackle an issue like this with just one solution. So we kind of formed a multi-pronged approach where we look at like policy changes, information campaigns, and social media campaigns. I know information and social media kind of look similar, but they do present very differently. And they're all kind of not interchangeable, but they don't work without each other. And that's kind of how we formed our solution. Okay.
Awesome. So when it comes to a policy and things that we can advocate, we can have governments really evaluate what they consider, what is organic and what is sustainable. This can be done through policies as well as informing the consumers and making sure that corporates are up to date with analytics and that the information that they provide. We can also have campaigns for disclosure of environmental impact of products. So this is all mainly methane specific. So we can have labels like this, as you can see, that really demonstrate and let the consumer know that these do have environmental impacts. And then we can also review food guidelines to consider both health and environmental concerns. So this is, again, sustainable practices, but there haven't been many updates to food pyramids or really any type of, like meal plans recently. So definitely having new ones of that and including whether that's renewable sources of food, food. So again, sticking more towards like non-dairy and non-meat production and involving vegetables and renewable sources of energy, but as well as, or farms that use renewable energy, but as well as food that is sustainable and has sustainable practices, which would include plants, fruits, rather than meat and dairy.
And these solutions are mainly focused at advocating towards governments and corporations. Leaving the responsibility only to individuals is not reasonable, and they are kind of the lowest on the rung of the effects. These are changes that could be made at a higher level that do affect individual behavior, but are mainly the responsibility of governments and corporations.
So when it comes to organic and why we would push this and what it really is, it follows 4 different aspects. So the first one being health, and that's really sustaining and enhancing not only plants, but the animals, the soil, the land that it's used, especially with ecology as well. Working with different types of ecosystems and really not only sustaining them, but creating artificial ones as well to ensure that all ecosystems and animals have a place to reside. For fairness, that's building relationships and ensuring that there's fair practices, not only in growing techniques, but also in terms of like work and ethics. And lastly, for care, and that's overall just not only protecting the environment and animals and health, but also our well-being and our future generations to come.
And organic also has another aspect, which is companies can get an organic label pretty easily. So when we change what is considered organic by encapsulating the impact that was made in the environment when they were farming, when they were growing, and in the larger company, not on the one cattle was raised organically, but on how are you as a company working to be organic. So when you have the title of organic, it not just being a rubber stamp, but instead being a responsibility to make sure that your practices are sustainable, to make sure that you're not growing at an unreasonable rate just for profit's sake, but your growth includes consideration of the environment. And this is a growth that could be calculated by scientists to see if they're actually being organic in the sense that they're considering all of these factors.
So again, another factor that we could also put in is disclosing. So again, we mentioned this earlier, but a lot of tobacco products, a lot of different energy drinks, they disclose whether they have high amounts of sugar, caffeine, nicotine, and the consequences they have.
We could do the same for methane. People should be able to tell quite easily when they're at the grocery store that the product they're buying is harmful to them. Harm isn't just the harm it causes to your physical cells, but the harm it causes to your environment. Something that is literally making the planet hotter and reducing our space, reducing everything that we can access on Earth, including water, is harmful to our bodies. And it is something that we should be able to acknowledge when you're at the grocery store. This is one of those things that people can see and it's not offensive in a way, it's just informative. This is where we are on information campaigns. It's something small, like a sticker, that changes things in a big way. When people are able to see that the company I am shopping at, the company I am trusting to make food for me, is not thinking about my larger environment. Okay, nutritional guidelines. Wow. Okay. Our nutritional guidelines don't really reflect people. In terms of 65% of the world's population cannot drink dairy, but it is something that is in almost every single nutritional guideline. Drink milk. That makes no sense and has very little basis in scientific research. Unfortunately, a big chunk of what we understand about nutrition and our diets, whilst backed by some scientific research, has been heavily altered by industries that play a heavy hand and profit from people not eating in the most sustainable ways. Not just dairy, but also the amount of meat we have, and even the reluctance of certain guidelines to talk about the harmful effects of consuming meat at the rate that we're consuming it is very problematic and contributes to the large amounts of people who consume dairy products like cheese and milk and yogurt under the assumption that it is healthier for them, which is not true, under the assumption that it is more sustainable, which is also not true. Having nutritional guidelines that better reflect the actual eating habits of people, as well as reevaluating what we call nutritional. It is not nutritional to eat something that is harming your environment, and that should be acknowledged in our eating habits and in when eating guidelines are being made by governments, by health specialists. Those are all things that should be in consideration, as well as things that should be readily communicated and available for people to find out. Okay.
So another tactic that we have is creating social media campaigns, and these will mainly be focused on individual behavior.
So, very fun part about this. What we understand about our eating habits, about food and our relationship to food is largely manufactured. So, I've spoken on in the 1970s, there were huge advertising efforts that were put into pushing people to eat more dairy, more grain, more meat. And a lot of that was pushed by big dairy, which is connected with cows, and big meat, which is, yeah. So a lot of players went in and created campaigns that reached billions of people in a very casual manner and changed their eating habits, including more recently in the 90s, the famous Got Milk campaign that almost every single celebrity was a part of, including people like Beyonce, Britney Spears. Everyone was a part of that campaign. It was a small thing that changed the eating habits of billions of people. It is to this day still considered one of the most successful marketing campaigns ever. Something so small, Got Milk and a milk mustache, changed how people eat. And we could change how people eat differently.
So we can do this by creating a new sustainable narrative, and we can use with fellow celebrities, fellow social media influencers, and really people that have a large impact on our community. And through forms of this, we can create not only different types of advertisements, but really we find that social media has the largest impact in terms of population. So we could create videos where, let's say, for example, like a upcoming social media influencer would go and say, come make breakfast with me, come make dinner with me. And they would go to the store and really show not only sustainable foods that they like to use, but really push the need for organic and how easy and accessible it is in grocery stores. So rather than making it seem like it's something that's completely on the other side of the store, we can show how it's integrated in our daily lives in terms of, again, if they want to make a smoothie, for example, we can push it towards the route of going for oat milk, non-dairy options. And even if we're going for more of an organic approach, then let's say they're making nachos or something, they could be going for organic vegetables, organic fruits, really any sort of food that they could be making. We just want to show the ease and really push the accessibility of organics and how it could be a sustainable practice that's not really seen as something that's very hard to do.
Yeah. It's just trying to make being organic and sustainable much more accessible and showing how they are resources that exist today for people to change their lifestyles, just pushing for it on a different way. And that's us.
We just wanted to quickly go over some of the major solutions that we have from a government, corporate.
This is just there's so many solutions that exist. They're multi-pronged. So like the government, corporations, consumers, we don't touch on all of the solutions, but they do exist.
And we do have to say that one of the biggest, most important factors is really just having a discussion. We think that, again, this can come from a corporate, consumer, and government level, but having a discussion and really showing awareness of this being a problem is one of our main factors that we need to push the most. So thank you for tuning into our presentation. Isabel?
I have a question. I really thought your idea about a methane label is really neat because, like, if you're buying, like, I don't know, like beef or something, and it has that like really daunting label. That's a cool idea. But I'm curious about like organic and methane because, like, you can have a great organic farm where all your employees are paid a fair wage and all that is good, and you're growing organic, like I guess soybeans to feed the cattle and stuff. But you're still contributing to methane. So, like, would you reframe what the certification of organic means?
So when we say reframing what organic means, we mean considering there are companies that are amazing, that are really thinking about the environment, about the people that they're affecting, but there are a lot of other companies that are considering the profit that comes from being organic, which is a little bit of a different side of it. So while they may focus on meeting the bare standards of what being organic encapsulates, of which unfortunately the standard is not as high as it should be, it means that they're able to get away with a lot of environmental impacts, whilst people who are purchasing their products think they're making the best choices for themselves and for the environment. They're actually making very harmful decisions because of unethical, not unethical, but like terrible company practices.
And in terms of a solution, we don't think that, again, plant-based food is the end all, because there's obviously going to be people that are always going to want to go back to meat. And by using more sustainable practices with, let's say, for organic farming and keeping those ecological perspectives in play, not only would it let the land be more sustainable, but also using practices like natural fertilizers would definitely not only have the land, again, be more viable for longer uses, but it would mean we could also put in organic in terms of like the farmers or even like the land. There's only a certain amount of meat or a certain amount of production of cows that they can have per year. The same going with land. They can't expand as much as they want, considering like South America and some of these other countries. They really can expand at whatever their cost is. So ensuring that, again, we have a limit on how far they can expand at one certain period. And again, using sustainable nutrients, because we know that pesticide, not only does that leach into our rivers, but we really find that, again, like using one of our main things here is food compost, because this can come from a consumer and corporate level. But if this did come with organics and using food compost as one of our main ways of nutrition, that would highly benefit in terms of, I guess, like methane release, but also, again, I'd say just sticking with the guidelines of, I guess, restricting, but not to a sense where it's only plant-based food, but also, again, including these restrictions with meat-based farms.
So just on the labeling, right?
Yeah.
Which would be truly innovative, but this is Canada. We cannot get the government to regulate the labeling of GMO products. And it's been tried, but how would you see that being feasible then to take that extra step and have them actually, I'm assuming you're talking about actually regulating this, enforcing this. We can't get GMOs on there, how are we gonna get that?
And I think it's difficult when you say we can't do something. It's better to say we haven't done it yet. So that's where I think a part of the conversation starts, is just getting more people in the conversation. It's kind of the thing where every social movement that has ever happened, any movement that was directed towards changing people's habits, came to a point where at one point it was something we couldn't do until it was something that we could do. It's something that, unfortunately, it is an uphill battle, which really shouldn't, but it is nonetheless something we could strive for.
Oh, I just have a comment. I like how you talked about the trends and getting and talked about the Got Milk campaign in the past. I think that was a really good idea, and that's really innovative as well, because I remember learning about this in the past, about the campaigns. When people see celebrities, they listen to them, right?
Even if you look at overconsumption right now, a large part of it is being driven by social media influencers promoting unsustainable lifestyles. We could also use the very same thing that is destroying us to campaign for better lifestyles. Like they are sustainable trends that are starting on social media, like people who are focusing more on having less, on slowing down, on not consuming as much. There are a lot of tiny mouse trends where people only have exactly what they need to sustain their lives. And those are all good things that came from social media, and social media has driven a lot of change.
Yeah, especially TikTok. Everyone's on TikTok.
Yeah.
Right? Even companies.
Yes.
So just, I guess, picking up on actually both these questions, where we know that the politics behind getting a label on something is intense, but you're hopeful about that. So you're sitting down tomorrow and you say, okay, let's get this thing going. Let's do it. Where do you start?
I think we start exactly where we said we're going to start, which is informing people. That's why nothing really works in a vacuum. It works when everything kind of connects with each other. And a part of that is sometimes you start with government advocacy, sometimes you start with social media advocacy, and sometimes you start with everything. And looking at starting tomorrow, it's looking at collecting like-minded individuals to help me push those ideas to the public, as well as starting to write papers recommending actions to the government, papers that are backed by research, which there is a lot of research on this topic that has shown the harm as well as the benefits that people are able to do just by having those labels. If you look at tobacco in the last 20 years, massively gone down based on just those labels that are so graphic. They've reduced the amount of people who are taking tobacco. Most people who use tobacco are not born after the year 2000, if I'm not mistaken. Like, that's a massive change considering where at one point people who consumed tobacco the most were younger people, and it's completely changed the demographic of that. And it all just starts from like collecting people, gathering, and then pushing for the change we want to see from those perspectives. Bringing like-minded people, creating policy papers, going to the government, and like pushing it more, raising social awareness.
And even adding on to that, but definitely, again, social media allows everyone to really get their mind and their opinions out, which would allow not only like-minded individuals to get our perspectives, but again, working with celebrities, a lot of the time, if you keep up to date with some of the largest celebrities in the world, none of them post really anything about climate change, which has been going on for past 10, 20 years. Ever since social media has been arise, I don't think I've really seen any celebrities really post anything about climate change. So even starting off with like smaller social media influencers that are just coming up to influence their smaller crowd as they're a lot more loyal, and then pushing them, or not hoping, but really, I guess,
creating a momentum.
Yeah, creating a momentum so that it thrives not only with bigger celebrities, but then if corporations see this adaptation, then they would definitely have like I guess an eye for this as well. So it definitely go again towards all these, and then eventually government for them to put in regulations from that perspective as well.
Our next group to present is Flora Fights.
Do you have the?
Yeah.
Hi.
Yeah.
Great work.
Yeah. 10 out of 10. Phenomenal.
I don't know if this is working or not.
Right.
Oh, did I do it?
You're too close.
I had to record for my friends. So we are a group of 3, but we did register for this a few hours ago because we just found out it's pretty last minute. So my other friends, they had other commitments that they had to go to, so they couldn't attend the presentation. But it was a group effort, and I'm presenting for all 3 of us. So
We appreciate you being here.
okay, so we are the Flora Fighters, and this is our race to reduce methane.